Wanna talk? So let's talk. Here. Talk. You wanna talk? You gotta talk, you need to talk. News talk.
I talk, you talk to Solomon. I talk, you talk to Solomon. Yeah, let's talk to Solomon. Talk to Solomon.
You gotta talk.
Good evening, my friends. Welcome to spring. Well, maybe winter. Well, who knows? But thank you for joining us. This is the Talk to Solomon show. I'm Stan Solomon. I'm the host.
I'm Chief Steve Davis, the in-studio co-host.
And that laugh came from our guest of honor, my friend, Dr. Alan Keyes. Alan, how are you this evening?
I'm doing fine, Stan. How are you?
I am fine. Well,
Hi, Chief.
Hello, Doctor.
I thought we'd start with a little levity, but there's some serious issues. I don't know which one to take first, and I have a lot of them I want to cover tonight, so I want to keep the discussions relatively short because I want to try and cover them all. Let's start with the decision being made, the arguments heard today at the Supreme Court level. Of course, everyone thought it's whether or not there should be gay marriage. That certainly is not the issue before the court. The issue is, A, did the Ninth Circuit error in allowing someone else to stand in when the government of California refused to do its constitutionally required duty and defend a public referendum? So since Schwarzenegger and Jerry Brown didn't show up, the Ninth Circuit let others take their place, and then, of course, they ruled against them, saying that denying homosexuals the right to marry was unconstitutional. So we have that brouhaha where the court will decide, A, whether the Ninth Circuit erred in allowing someone else to have standing, B, whether if they say they shouldn't have had standing, do they leave the Ninth Circuit decision in place, or do they eliminate both, in essence, say the people didn't have standing and therefore the decision doesn't stand, send it back to the trial court where, of course, that court no longer exists. That judge, an out-of-the-closet homosexual, has retired. So you'd have to assign a whole new judge and start the whole dance again. Then, of course, tomorrow we have, once again, a government, this time the federal government, not doing its constitutionally required job of defending a law that was passed by the Congress and signed by the President, the Defense of Marriage Act. So, and we have a Supreme Court that has shown that it is related directly or almost directly to the chicken family. So, based on that, Alan, your thoughts?
Well, Stan, I actually am in a little bit of a quandary trying to understand what's going on. Because here we have a situation where the Congress has passed a law, right? We have a president who is refusing to defend that law, and refusing to enforce it, and that would be, in a way, his way of showing that he was going to see to the faithful execution of the laws. So the question then arises: if a president is refusing faithfully to execute the law, is it the job of the Supreme Court to tell the president to execute the law? Because here we have the Congress going to the Supreme Court and somehow making an argument that is what? Expecting the court to say that the president has to enforce DOMA or make take something, cognizance of something that would then lead them, if they did decide in favor of DOMA, to say that it did, and if they decide against it, does that settle the question? Here's the problem. According to the Constitution of the United States, the ultimate supervisory authority is with Congress. They have the stick. So if the president is refusing to faithfully execute the laws, the Supreme Court actually has no stick with which to compel the president or try to compel him to faithfully execute the law. Who has that stick, Stan?
Well, the Congress, because they control the money.
No, not just because they hold the money. It is because the Congress is actually empowered to be the grand jury to indict the president and the court to decide whether the president is derelict in his or her duty. It's called impeachment and removal, and it's provided for in the Constitution. And it means that in the constitutional terms, the folks who are holding the compulsory element when it comes to the executive branch, to look at that executive branch occupant and say, do this or else, that's the Congress. The court actually doesn't have that capacity because they don't have any executive powers. Like it's the old saw about Andrew Jackson. The Supreme Court had made a decision, and he basically said, well, they made their decision, let them enforce it. And it's a joke, of course, because they don't have any enforcement power. He's the enforcement power of the federal government. So when a branch of the federal government needs something to be enforced, they got to go to the president because he wields the executive power. And to make sure he does his job, that's the Congress. So what is going on when people in the Congress are saying, we shall go to the court and get the court to do what? Do their job? I'm not quite understanding what's happening in this situation. Because the other side of it, I know some people would want to argue, well, it's the law, and the president always has to do what the Congress says because they make the laws. Isn't that right? But the president takes a separate oath. And that oath is to uphold, protect, and defend the Constitution. So if he conscientiously sees something in a law and he says, the Constitution doesn't allow me to do that, can he go ahead and do it against his oath? See, I don't think he can. Any president. I don't think any president can look at a law, see something in it that he conscientiously believes to be unconstitutional and therefore a violation of his oath, and go ahead and do it. Because he has a separate and independent responsibility under the Constitution to obey the Constitution as he carries out his job. He can't say to Congress, made me do it, because he has that separate responsibility. And they then have their separate responsibility, if they take a different view, to act on it. And I think part of the problem here, final word, sorry to take so long, is that this whole issue with respect to the defense of marriage is being argued by a lot of people in the wrong way. I've been trying on my blog and in my WorldNet Daily column this week to wake people up to the existence of something called the Ninth Amendment to the Constitution of the United States. It's sort of in that limbo where the 10th Amendment was kept for a long time. And in recent years, thank God, people have rediscovered that it's there. It is now time for people to rediscover the Ninth Amendment, because it says quite clearly that contrary to what we're always told, our rights are not exclusively enumerated in the Constitution. We have rights that the Constitution does not talk about. And in the Ninth Amendment, it says that nothing in the Constitution is to be construed in any way that denies or disparages these rights which are retained by us. And I talk about what these rights are and how one recognizes them. And I think it's about time that people realize the natural rights of family, which are being systematically violated and destroyed by the insistence on things like gay marriage. It's time that people stood up and reminded folks in the courts, in the Congress, in every aspect of our government, that there are natural rights that come to us from God involved in family life, and that they cannot promote some other understanding of rights that denies and disparages those rights. It is forbidden by the Constitution.
Well, let's hope that they wake up to that fact. Of course, the argument for the Defense of Marriage Act will take place tomorrow. Today it was the ruling by the Ninth Circuit that denying homosexual people the right to marry is unconstitutional. Brent just joined us. Brent, you have a comment on this?
Yeah, I do. I think Alan has, as always, elucidated the true situation with his general aplomb. There you go. Elucidated an aplomb in one sentence, Alan. You got to give me credit for that.
I give you credit for that. That's a good one. William Buckley would love you.
The thing here is indeed that the idea of separation of powers, judicial, executive, and legislative, was based on the principle that this country was set up, this republic was set up for a just and moral people, so that each member of Congress would vote and exercise his or her conscience. Each member of the Supreme Court would look to the Constitution first and then the laws second, but not to case law, not to what others have said. Each member of the executive branch would faithfully execute and administer the laws of the land and defend and protect the Constitution. The problem we have today is that the three branches have all become political. They have all colluded to do what they think is the thing to do. And never mind what the law says, never mind conscience. Conscience, there's no such thing in Congress anymore. Okay, never mind that the Supreme Court is supposed to be impartial. These three branches have colluded, and it's very clear they've colluded through, even the Supreme Court has been turned into something very similar to the Roosevelt Supreme Court, loading it up with political appointees. And as long as politics is the name of the game, we're never going to have this country fixed. Alan is absolutely right. The solution is very simple. You impeach the president. Now, remember, impeachment is simply an indictment against the president. It's not throwing him out of office. Impeachment is what the House does. They simply say the president is not faithfully executing the laws as he swore an oath to do. That's it. No second chances. We are now accusing you of this. Now let the president come forward in a trial conducted by the Senate, a non-political trial, and show that he is faithfully executing. And if he cannot show that, throw him out of office. There are countries on this planet where I think one of the greatest mistakes in the Constitution was the lack of the parliamentary no confidence vote. There are countries on this planet where no confidence votes take place every few months. And if the, in that case, prime minister, in our case, president, doesn't do what he's supposed to do, he's tossed. That's it. You're out. It's it. You're just gone. And we don't have that. And therefore, we only have the process of impeachment to remove the president. Otherwise, he's in there for 4 years. And frankly, I think that was a mistake by the framers of the Constitution. We should have had the no confidence vote.
Brett, thank you. Go ahead, Alan.
No, I just want to say a brief word in defense of the way the Constitution is written, though, because I think that what they don't do in the British system, and the British Parliament didn't intend to do, was make sure that the people would be the ultimate arbiters of all these disputes. And so putting the necessary power in the hands of the Congress, but doing it in a way that required that they act according to an understanding that wasn't going to be purely based on politics and partisan thises and that's. And if it was, right, which it can be, the end result would be inconclusive and would then have to be taken back to the people in an electoral vote. You actually get the equivalent result of a vote of no confidence, but you do it through the periodic elections that decide who's going to sit in the Senate and who's going to sit in the House of Representatives. Sadly, what you describe should be happening frequently. I think presidents ought to be impeached whenever there is a solid majority in the House that says, you're not doing your job. Benghazi, he should have been impeached, and so forth. Why? Because all the bunk about executive privilege and other stuff, which can sometimes, by the way, I call it bunk, but it can sometimes have a reasonable ground in terms of national security and other things. But you can cut through all of that in the impeachment process, because the president does not have the right to shield anybody from the impeachment process. It's the one procedure where he just has to come forward and let it all hang out. Otherwise, he proves himself to be worthy of impeachment by defying the constitutional process. And so I think that with the right understanding and resolve, our system should operate in a way that's more stable than the parliamentary system, but that also holds the executive accountable.
All right, I'm going to try and move through some other topics here more quickly, so I'm asking everyone to cooperate with me here. It has been exposed that the United States government spends more on disability than it does on food stamps and welfare combined. That the growth in the disability payment area is astronomical, that this year it will exceed, ready, $1.4 trillion. It has become the way to pay your political troops, your political people, whether they're union people who have taken great advantage of this. Most of the disability claims are not provable. They're my back hurts. They're not, there's an arrow in my head. And yet, no one's paying any attention. We have historic numbers of people, almost 50 million people on food stamps. We have huge numbers of people on welfare. And to think that both of these programs are together are less than what we're paying for people with disability, many of whom, while they're getting a disability because they can't work, they're out doing physical things, running marathons, whatever, and no one's doing anything about it. So I want to start with you, Chief, and let's go around the horn.
Well, what's better than buying votes than to buy votes with your enemy's money? So what they've done is the government's promoted with commercials and other agenda to get people to go on this permanent disability program rather than on food stamps or temporary things, and in a system called SSI that was never intended to be used this way in the first place. So what they're doing is the government is stealing money from the enemy, which is us, and giving it to people they can pay to vote for them, and it's a crime and it should be stopped.
Alan.
Well, then I think the Chief is right, and it's an example of how the utter corruption of the integrity of our governmental process by politics is now the characteristic of what I call the sham party system. And these folks are no longer about following the Constitution, no longer about effectively carrying out what are supposed to be the limited powers and responsibilities of the federal government. They're about gathering as much power through regulation and as much of the resources of the country through taxation and fees and other ways of digging into people's pockets as they can, and then parceling them out basically to build their political empires. And I don't think we're going to see an end to this until we have gotten back to the limited government concept. Limited by what? By respect for the rights of the people. And those rights include people working to take care of themselves, first and foremost, without being destroyed in their livelihood and in their liberty by the government. Until we return to that, where people can really responsibly exert the right sort of influence over their own lives and fate, we're going to be at the mercy of this ever-expanding government, which lives on the dependency which its own policies induce. And we've got to break that cycle.
Brett?
When Davy Crockett, the famous frontiersman, when Davy Crockett was a congressman in the 1830s, the early part of the decade, there was a vote that was taken in Congress. There was a big fire in Georgetown, a suburb of Washington, and there were women and children who were homeless, and the Congress voted, and Crockett also voted for it. He repudiated what he did later on in the decade in his next election campaign. But they voted for $22,000 from the public coffers to help the distressed people in Georgetown. Now, when he was campaigning for re-election, Crockett came across a farmer who said he would never vote for Crockett again. And when he asked why, he said, because you don't understand the Constitution. And the farmer explained to Crockett that you didn't have a right to give 1 penny to those people in Georgia. It doesn't matter it was only $22,000. It could have been $22 million. It makes no difference. You were not given the authority to take my money and give it to somebody else. I'm sure there are people out there who are worse off than the people who suffered from the fire in Georgetown. And Crockett never again voted for any benefit from government to be given to other people. Back in 1880, 1881, there was a big problem in the federal government. There was a $100 million surplus, and they couldn't figure out what to do with it. They had collected more money than they could spend. Today, of course, we think $100 million is nothing. The solution here, and nobody's going to like it, they're going to call me heartless. The solution here is completely stop the benefits. It's not the job of the government to pay disability. It's not the job of the government to pay food stamps. It's not the job of the government to pay welfare or unemployment insurance. Let the private sector handle it. Let the churches and the synagogues and the temples handle it. Let the charities handle it. But it is not the reason that the government was created. The government was created to secure the free exercise of our unalienable rights and for nothing else.
All right, now let me just throw a thought in here, and that is, I believe that what we have is a system that is designed to break the back of freedom. There's another story that I sent everyone of an administrator in the San Francisco area whose compensation is $423,000 a year, and what's more, she's going to receive that pay for the rest of her life even after she retires. Now, don't know the lady, she may be wonderful, not that wonderful, but the reality is we know that we have, our systems have been designed to make promises that cannot be kept unless what happens? And the answer is what has happened in Cyprus. What has now been announced will be happening to save the euro throughout the European Union. And what will happen in the United States and throughout the world, where eventually nothing belongs to us and everything belongs to government. There is no other answer. Dr. Keys.
No, I agree with that. And running through my mind was the progression of events that lead us to the situation in Cyprus. And I hope everybody's aware of what's going on there, because I think that given our debt situation, we may someday fairly soon face the moment when China will play the role of the German government to a crisis in America that is induced by this irresponsible indebtedness. And at that point, the government will simply tell everybody, okay, we're going to dip into your savings account and all your accounts, and we're going to take what we want. That is theft, Stan. That's just organized theft. And once you have allowed the government to return to that, guess what the American people are? They are serfs and peasants and slaves. That's what they are, working for a little elite nobility who will then look at them and say, whatever made you think this government existed for you? This government exists so that you can labor to put money into our coffers, because that's all that's going on with that. And I know folks will think, oh, it's all complicated banking stuff. No, what's simply going on is that some really rich and privileged banksters have organized things in such a way that governments are falling so that they will then put their people in thrall to this new global aristocratic class of oligarchic masters. And we have two parties now whose leadership is cooperating in trying to put America in exactly that situation, all the while telling us that their spendthrift ways, it's something we're doing for you. Yeah, it's like the drug dealer who says that the next fix is something he's doing for the addict. And the end result is the destruction of that person's life. And that's what I think the American people are experiencing right now. And we're only going to stop, and I think in this, Vance is right, there's only one way to stop that. We got to go cold turkey on this one.
We're going to take a break, and we'll come back with Dr. Alan Keyes, Brent Johnson from freedomradio.us, Chief Steve, and me, Stan Solomon, with more on Talk to Solomon. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 supercolloidal silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get supercolloidal silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back. I like to eat. You like to eat? We all do. And usually we run to the grocery store, we run to the convenience store, or we have something in the fridge. But power's been out in parts of this country in the last few weeks. We don't know what's going to come down the pike economically. Smart people are putting in food. Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves is a line of foods that you can put away that will last for a very long time. You know, they say eat what you store and store what you eat. This is great tasting stuff, healthy for you, a full line. You go to our website, cpnlive.com, and click on the button for Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves and see all the different things we have. This is good tasting food. It's reasonably priced. It will last. And it's worth its weight in gold if a problem arises. I know you don't think there's going to be anything that goes wrong. Actually, you do. This is smart. This is smart insurance. This is smart preparation. This is smart thinking. You have kids, you have a spouse, you have parents, you have dependents, you have an appetite. All those things can be addressed by a frugal but smart investment in Alpine Air Gourmet Reserves. Try them out. You will be tickled to death with the taste of them. You know what? In many cases, people start to eat this and they think, heck, this tastes better and costs less than what you're going to the grocery store to buy. cpnlive.com, check it out. Let me ask you a question. Do you like being sick? I have in my hand an incredible product. It's called TR10 Supercolloidal Silver. TR10 stands for a trace to the negative 10th power. The particles in this silver product are 6 to 8 angstroms, 6 to 8 10 billionths of a meter. Now listen to me. Silver has been the magic bullet for all of human existence. The Egyptians used silver instruments. We use silverware. They put silver in your teeth because nothing can grow on silver. Silver will kill anything but liberalism. I'm working on that. This product, you go to cpnlive.com, buy 1 quart of this product. It will last you for a very long time. Anytime you feel like you've been exposed to something bad, take some of this product, spray it in your mouth, or take a little bit and gargle it, swallow it. It will kill any pathogen. The average antibiotic kills 10 to 20 different pathogens. This product will kill 700 plus. Do yourself a favor, do your family a favor, do your doctor a favor. He's tired of seeing you. Get supercolloidal silver. Go to cpnlive.com, order the product. It's $29.95 plus shipping. I think it's $39.95 delivered any place in America right to your door. It's worth 10 times that. Check it out. If you're not 100% happy, just return it and we'll give you your money back.